Big changes are in the works affecting your choices at the ballot box in 2022. Arizona's Independent Redistricting Commission meets every 10 years after the census to redraw the boundaries of the state's congressional districts and the 30 legislative districts. Their work for the 2022 election is almost done, and the commission's draft maps reveal some members of Congress will be looking for a new home. And you might be represented by a new member of Congress. Jeremey Duda of the Arizona Mirror has guided us through this process. He sat through every meeting, I think every meeting, for the last several months. Jeremey, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
So where are we right now in the redistricting process?
Well, the Independent Redistricting Commission has approved what's known as the draft maps, which is like the official first draft of the new congressional and legislative districts. What happens now is the Arizona Constitution requires them to put these maps out for public review for 30 days. They'll have meetings all across the state, many of them in person, some of them virtual. And after getting that 30 days of public input, they're going to come back, take what they've learned, make additional changes to the maps, and then hopefully by late December, under the schedule they're looking at, they will approve the final maps of the districts that we will use for the next decade.
I don't sense there's that much outrage at what's been put together so far. Do you see this kind of going through smoothly?
Give them time. There's always going to be outrage. Certainly, there's a lot of grumbling about the minority districts that are drawn to comply with the Voting Rights Act. I'm sure over the next 30 days we'll learn everything that everyone is outraged about on both of these, both the congressional and legislative maps. So there's plenty of time for that outrage and more than enough time for litigation.
And I think some of the members of Congress we're talking about in just a second here aren't too happy right now. Let's start with them. Let's go to a two-term Democratic Congressman, Greg Stanton of Phoenix. Stanton lives in the new Congressional District 8. It's kind of part of Phoenix, northwest part of the valley. Much of his current district is in the new CD4. That's sort of South Scottsdale, Tempe, and Points East. How competitive is the district he's in now and his old one, and where does he want to be?
Where he wants to be, I'm sure, is something similar to his old district, which goes from Ahwatukee and Tempe and like West Mesa, part of Chandler, wrapping through kind of Biltmore and Arcadia up into North Phoenix. Now, what the commission has done is cut off that North Phoenix, most of the Phoenix parts of that district, leaving him in, as you mentioned, District 8, which is kind of Northwest Phoenix and Peoria, which is a somewhat competitive, but still, definitely Republican-leaning district, where I'm sure he would have no desire to run, most likely against a Republican incumbent colleague of his. Where I'm sure he would like to be is in the new district that takes up much of his old district, the new District 4. That's Ahwatukee, Tempe, West Mesa. A lot of West Mesa and parts of Chandler. I think a little bit of Gilbert. That is also kind of marginally competitive, but definitely Democratic leaning. And I would imagine that's probably where he would like to run. But that's 2 districts away, so we'll see exactly what he does. In between his Republican-leaning competitive district and his Democratic-leaning competitive district, there's another more competitive but still Republican-leaning district. So he has some options. There's really 3 districts he could potentially run in, but 2 of which, I guess 3 of which take up parts of his old district.
And good time to point out that under the Constitution, members of Congress only have to live in the state they represent. They do not have to live in the district they represent.
Which I suspect we'll get a crash course on that within a few months.
We'll be hearing a lot about it. And let's go to Debbie Lesko. Very interesting situation. She's in a similar pickle. She was drawn into Democratic Congressman Ruben Gallego's new 3rd congressional district, which stretches northwest from South Phoenix, that South Valley area, into Peoria. Lesko's home is 4 houses west of the new Congressional District 8, which includes much of her current district. She's not too happy about that, is she?
I would imagine not. Now, the district that Stanton lives in, that Northwest Phoenix, Peoria district, I've always looked at that and said, oh, that's the Debbie Lesko district, because it's, most of her hometown of Peoria. It's, about half of her current district. But as you mentioned, she lives 4 houses away into Ruben Gallego's district, because that district, which is, South Phoenix, West Phoenix, Maryvale, parts of Avondale, Tolleson, But they did some kind of weird where they took the northern boundary of that and jutted that into kind of the downtown Peoria area, which wrapped in maybe Lesko's house. Now, there's obviously no way she's going to be running in that district. It's overwhelmingly Democratic. It's a majority Latino, very, very much designed for a Latino Democrat to win without much breaking much of a sweat. So she could move into the district where Stanton lives in now, which I've always thought of as the Lesko district. There's another district, a new, very, very Republican West Valley district that takes in much of the area she represents now, Surprise, Sun City West, all of that area up into, I think, Goodyear and around there, and then takes in La Paz County, northern Yuma County, all of Mojave. It is, overwhelmingly Republican. It is a lot of the area she represents. So really, that's the new District 9. So really, she could run in, I think, District 8 or District 9.
So the new District 9, which is being nicknamed the River District because it does, the western boundary is along the Colorado River boundary of Arizona. So keep that in mind now as we go to northern Arizona, and Democrat Tom OHalloran of Sedona, he seems to have been dealt the worst hand. He and Republican Paul Gosar have been placed in the same congressional district, the new Congressional District 2, with a very distinct Republican edge. What does OHalloran do? And then I'll ask you what Gosar might do. But what does Tom OHalloran do now?
Well, I think OHalloran, that's really the only district I think he could run unless he wants to go really far out of the area of northern Arizona where he lives. Now, that district has been very competitive for the last 20 years. The past 10 years, the district he was elected to, it's always elected Democrats to Congress, but in two of the last three presidential elections, it went for Republicans. It's gone for a lot of Republican statewide candidates. So it's something that feasibly either party could win. Now, the district it's pretty Republican leaning. It's just a bit mathematically, just a bit outside of the range, the far side of the range that the redistricting commission would consider competitive. So that's going to be a tough district for a Democrat, even a relatively moderate Democrat like OHalloran to win.
What about Gosar? He and Lesko got to work things out, right? You've mentioned Lesko might run in the River District. That River District seems and also seems to be a natural for Paul Gosar.
That it does. Now, Gosar, hails from Flagstaff. Now, after the last redistricting, he switched his. He said he was going to be running from Prescott instead, and switched to a new district that was, not competitive, was very Republican. Now, Flagstaff and Prescott are both in the new district too. So there's really no. So if he's going to run from claiming either of those places as residents, he'll be running in District 2. And as I mentioned, it's a Republican district, but maybe close enough for a Republican who's kind of as far out to the right as Paul Gosar to be potentially in trouble to a moderate Democrat like Tom OHalloran.
A lot of decisions to be made in the next month or so. I do want to add for voters out there an example of how the musical chairs affect you. If you are a constituent of Republican Debbie Lesko, you might find yourself next year a constituent of Democrat Ruben Gallego of Phoenix. If you are a constituent of Ruben Gallego in Central Phoenix, you could find yourself represented by David Schweikert, a Republican of Fountain Hills. Pay attention to what's happening over the next month or so. You have a say in this redistricting. Jeremey Duda of the Arizona Mirror, thank you so much for joining us.